Hi everyone, it's Tanya and welcome to today's video. And today I'm here to do my first ever bookshelf tour. Some of you might have already seen in my previous video, which I will link up here. I got for my birthday new bookshelf. This one. This is a IKEA Billy bookshelf. So I had quite a good amount of books collected already, and some of them were sitting on the floor, and I really needed a new bookshelf. And then my birthday came and I received one for my birthday. I organized it in this video that will be linked up here, and today I am giving you a tour of my old bookshelf and my new bookshelf. There isn't really like any particular rule to how I organize my books. I try to keep like beautiful editions together like these ones. I try sometimes like put books from one country together, but in general there isn't really like any particular rule. I also try to maybe put some books with like similar color together, but apart from that, nothing really very special of any of notice. So that's why let's just jump straight into the bookshelf tour. I hope you enjoy. Okay, so here are my bookshelves, two of them. The biggest one is the Billy bookshelf from IKEA, and the smaller one is actually from a Japanese furniture shop, which is Nippori, something, I forgot, some Nippori or Nittori, something like this. So this was my first bookshelf, and then this one I got recently, and you can watch actually my organization video. I will link it up here. So these are the primarily where I keep my books. However, I do have my books also in here, in this little square under our TV, and I do have a small stack also here, which is mostly like about Native Americans, which is like just an interesting topic for me. I don't know, for some reason this culture is interesting to me, but I do have yet to read these books. Okay, so I think I will start first with these Native American books, and then I will go through these books, and then I will introduce you all the books on my bookshelves. Okay, so the first book that I have here is actually a non-fiction book, which is Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee, an Indian history of the American West. So I guess it's just the history of these people. I also have The American West by D. Brown, by the same author actually, the author of Bury My Heart at the Wounded Knee. So I have both books by this author. Next book is The Lakotas and the Black Hills, The Struggle for Sacred Ground. And then I have Soft Train, which is a middle grade book for kids, a story of Cherokee Trail of Tears. I think it's a story about one of the tribes being relocated by the white people. Next one is Pushing the Bear, a novel of the Trail of Tears by Diane Clancy. I think it's also about relocation. Next one is American Indian Stories and Old Indian Legends, which I think this one I am the most excited about, because like legends and mythology is something that is really interesting to me. So this is this book. And one more very short book is The Soul of the Indian, and this is a story about the spiritual beliefs and moral beliefs of the Native Americans before they were affected by the white people. So I'm also very excited about this book as well, even though it's really short. And actually most of these books were recommended to me by one of the viewers, and I'm sorry I forgot the name, but I will insert the comment down here. So thank you very much for all the recommendations. Okay, so now we are down to this shelf, and here I have Perfectly Preventable Death by Dendra Sullivan, and I love this book. I really love this book. It's a YA story, a little bit like scary and spooky, about two sisters moving to live in a small village with their stepfather and their mom, and about like spooky stuff that is happening there, which is girls disappearing in this village. Girls have been disappearing there for like past 100 years, I think. So, and it's just about the sisters discovering what happened to the girls. Next one is a middle grade book, which is Dealing with Dragons. It's like a very famous series. I read the first book, it was fun, but I'm not going to continue with the series. One more is a fantasy by Guy Gavriel Kay, and this is Tia Gana. This is not a series, this is just a standalone book. I still haven't read it because it's huge and it intimidates me, but I really want to give it a go. Here I have one Korean book which I brought from Korea, just, you know, to read it sometimes from time to time in order not to like completely forget my Korean. And it's just, you see, it's just a fun book for like very young children. But even this book is hard for me to read. My Korean is actually very bad. So, but I still have it, and I think the illustrations inside are very cute. Now, further I have two books by Ursula K. Le Guin. I have The Left Hand of Darkness and The Word for World is Forest. And I read both of them and I really loved both of them. But The Word for World is Forest is like by far my favorite. I adore this book. This is so cool. Next I have The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller, and this is also one of my favorite books. And then I have another fun middle grade story, The Dragon with a Chocolate Heart. This book I also absolutely adore. This is such a light-hearted, heartwarming read, and also like really interesting, and it's very easy to read. I absolutely adore it. It's about a dragon actually, a young dragon who was bored of sitting in her cave. She runs away from her family and she stumbles across this magician, and she was really hungry, so she wanted to eat him. But he played a trick on her, and so he prepared this chocolate, this magical chocolate, which she drank, and she turned into a human girl. So she couldn't eat him. But she discovered her passion for chocolate and she decided to become a chocolatier. And so this is the book about her looking for the opportunities to become a chocolatier. A lovely book, I adore it. The next book I have is The Dream of a Red Chamber. I haven't read it because later I figured out that this book is actually an abridgment, and I want to read like the whole story, but the whole story is like 6 books, and each book in this series is like 500 pages. So and currently on Book Depository those books are like really pricey. Yeah, I'm waiting for discount on them, but this is an abridgment, that's why I'm not reading it. However, this is classics of Chinese literature, and I really want to read this. It's like one of 4 of the biggest and the most important classical Chinese stories, so that's why like it's really on my table and I really need to read it. Further, I have these 2 books, which are the series: The Name of the Wind, which I'm sure everybody knows, and The Wise Man's Fear. So the first and the second book in the series, haven't read them yet, looking forward to it. And then I have Circe by Madeline Miller, read it, loved it. Also I have Lenny by Max Porter, read it. It was really unique and special. It wasn't something like I absolutely loved, but it was different and special and unique, and that's what I loved about this book. Last book on the shelf is We Have Always Lived in the Castle, and I read this book and I absolutely adored it. Such a brilliant book, loved it. Okay, so now we're off to these 2 bookshelves, and I will start at the top of the first and we will go down and then to the smaller one. So here on the top my upper shelf is empty, so I still have some space for more books there. But here first I have these 2 lovely figurines from Korea, and they are in traditional Korean hanbok, and this is like actually like emperor clothes. So this is like the Guy Emperor and the Empress, and I think they're absolutely adorable. I bought them like for $1 each from Daiso, and I love them. I absolutely love them. And so they're standing next to Korean literature. So this is like my small tiny collection of Korean books, and here I have Please Look After Mother by Kyung-Suk Shin. I'm sorry if I mispronounce the names. It would be easier if they were written in Korean actually, because like the romanization is sometimes difficult to like actually like pronounce. So yeah, Please Look After Mother. This is a very famous book, and fun fact, actually I watched some interview. Rap Monster from BTS recommended this book. Somebody asked him for like Korean book recommendations, and he mentioned this book. I'm not like a huge BTS fan, but I do listen to their music, and I do think that their music is very good. So just a fun fact that he recommended this book. Actually, I still haven't read it. It's like my new addition to my collection, so it's like I still haven't get to it. So next book here is actually the book that I read for Koreadathon recently, and I will link some of my Koreadathon vlogs also up here. If you want, you can watch. But this is The Vegetarian by Han Kang, and this book actually won the International Man Booker Prize. I forgot which year, I think 2016, but I'm not sure. I love this book. This is absolutely brilliant. It's about a woman slowly losing her mind, and it's about all the pressures that women face in the society and how they're perceived by different members of the society, and how it's like sometimes unfair, how sometimes it dehumanizes them. You have to read it. So I really love this book. Next book is Good Son by Yu Chong Chong, and this is a thriller. Actually, it also was on my Koreadathon TBR, but I didn't get to it. I'm very excited about it actually. So this is about a guy who one day wakes up in his house and he finds a body of somebody he knows very well, but he cannot remember anything from yesterday. And he realizes that if he reports the body to the police, he will be accused of the murder. And so what is he gonna do? We have to find out. We have to read this book first. I haven't read it yet, but look, international Korean bestseller. The next book is Familiar Things by Won Sok Young, and this is a book about a mother and a son who are moving to this suburb of Seoul, where the poorest member of the society live, and they work. They kind of just separate rubbish, so they go through trash and they live there. And it's the examination of capitalism, and it looks at what it cost us as the society. So I still haven't read this book. I still have to read, but I am incredibly excited about it, and I think I will get to it very soon. The next book is Human Acts by Han Kang. This is the book that I'm almost through. I have almost finished it. I started it immediately after The Vegetarian, and I'm loving it just as much, if not more, than The Vegetarian. Next three books are all by the same author, so I will show them to you together. So this is The Hen Who Dreamed She Could Fly, The Dog Who Dared to Dream, and Miracle on Cherry Hill. So this is not a series, these are all different novellas. The first one is about a hen who lives in this barn on this farm, and she's tired of living there, of being captured and having to lay eggs on command and having them constantly taken from her. So she wants to run away, she wants to escape and to be free. Next one is about a dog. Forgot actually what it's about, so I couldn't tell you. And Miracle on Cherry Hill is about a man who is diagnosed with a lethal disease, and he comes actually from a very impoverished family, but he built his life for himself. So now he owns like a big construction company, and after being diagnosed, he decides to step down and he decides to live in the countryside. He buys a house in the countryside, but for some reason people who also live in this village keep coming to his property. Like the property that he bought used to be the communal place, and so it's about like him, I guess, learning to coexist in this new society for him. So these are the three books. This shelf is actually going to change because I still have to decide how it's better to organize it, because this, for example, stack is for my reading rush. So after the reading rush, I will reorganize it, and these are the my Japanese books that I have, but I have more books by Japanese authors, and I would like to organize my bookshelves based on like country. from which the books are. So I want to put all of my Japanese books together, all of my Korean books together, and I need to decide how it's better to do so it would also look beautiful. I need to think about it. Okay, so now is the reading rush. I will not show you all the books because you can watch my reading rush TBR. It will be right here. It's basically almost all of these books. Actually, all of these books are for the reading rush, but I have here Ulysses Strata, Roberto Bolaño, Antwerp, his first novel, Ernest Hemingway, To Have and Have Not. Then I don't know how to pronounce this author's name. He is Italian, but I'm so sorry. Leonardo, I'm really not sure about his last name, so I apologize. To Each His Own. This is about mafia in Sicilia. Then Italo Calvino, I Adore Him. This is the collection of his three short stories, Under the Jaguar Sun, Roberto Bolaño, and Graham Greene. So now off to my Japanese books, which are not all of my Japanese books, but the majority, I would say. Okay, so the first one is The Secret History of the Lord of Musashi and Arrow Roof. So I feel this is like you see, two novels. I'm not sure, but I think it's about a samurai, but I'm not sure. I don't remember exactly what this book is about, but they're also supposed to be like very sensual novels, so we will see. Next one is a very famous The Nakano Thrift Shop by Hiromi Kawakami, and this is a story about a girl meeting her love like in a thrift shop, so something like that. I still haven't read it, but very excited. The next book I am incredibly excited about. It sounds just something very interesting, and this is the vintage Red Spine edition. So this is The Waiting Years by Fumiko Enchi, and this is a story about this wife of a politician, of a Japanese politician, who has to choose like a lover for her, for him. So she's basically choosing like his mistress for her husband, and I'm like, this premise sounds very interesting to me. Like it must be like very like, I don't know, psychological book or like psychological dilemma for her. We will see. Next one is Sweet Bean Paste by Durian Sukagawa. This has to be something like very kind and very warm, and just something I would absolutely adore, and also something about food and about friendship. So I love such books. So next one is Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. I read this book, absolutely loved it. It's about this lady who works in a convenience shop, and she has been working there for the past 18 years of her life. She's 36 now, and her family doesn't understand her. Her friends don't really understand her, like why she's still working there, and she doesn't want to create a better career for herself. But she genuinely does love this job. She is the type of person, she feels very weird, so I think she has like some psychological maybe condition, but it hasn't been diagnosed to her, so her family don't really know, even though she has been to many doctors. So she's just not the type of person who can create a career for herself, and she doesn't really understand people, she doesn't understand the society, she doesn't understand how to communicate to people. And why she loves her convenience store is because she understands how it works, and she understands how to be a part of this small community, functioning an important part, and that's why she adores it. And it's just about her finding and looking for the opportunity to be there and to work there, and to just, you know, just be able to be left alone by people. So that's the book. The next book is Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi, and I still haven't read this book, but I have this idea in my mind to go to like a really nice coffee shop and read it there, because this is a book about a coffee shop, a magical coffee shop where people can come, order a cup of coffee, and travel back in time, I think. But the catch is that they have to return back before their coffee gets cold. So that's what I know about this book, and I'm incredibly excited about it. The next book is The Forest of Wool and Steel by Natsu Miyashita. I don't really know what this book is about. I totally forgot. I just remember some somebody recommended it on BookTube, and I thought sounded like something I would absolutely adore. And also I found this hardback copy on Book Depository for just like $8, and I got excited and I got it. So I'm very excited about this book. It has to be something like very quiet, kind and peaceful, so something that I really like about books. Next book is The Book of Tokyo, and this is collection of short stories by different Japanese authors about Tokyo and set also in Tokyo. So that's all I know, and I am excited to explore this city in literature, not only in life but also in literature. The next two books I have are from English, like from Penguin Classics collection, so I will show them to you together. The first one is The Diary of Lady Murasaki. Lady Murasaki is the author of The Tale of Genji. I really want to read that book. There's like Japanese old classics from, I think, 16th century, and so this is the lady, she lived in like 16th century, so I'm really excited. But because The Tale of Genji is so huge, I decided to start with something more doable and maybe easier to read, and so I decided to start with The Diary of Lady Murasaki. This is just about her experiences of living in the court, in the Japanese court of that time, and just, you know, talking about people at the court and all the rules. And then the second book that I have is Kokoro by Natsume Soseki. Natsume Soseki is a beloved Japanese classic author, and I still haven't read anything by him. Like Kokoro, it has been on so many of my TBRs and I still haven't gotten to it, but I really want to. I hope I will be able to get to it very soon, especially that now I almost stopped buying new books. So yeah, this is something about a student and a professor, and professor is sharing like his life and his just experiences to his student, so must be something very interesting. And then in this stack I have just like a collection of random books. I have Don Juan by Peter Handke. Peter Handke is a German author who actually won the Nobel Prize in 2019 in literature, so I really want to read his books. And this is like a story of Don Juan narrated by Don Juan, from the perspective of Don Juan, so interesting. Next one is White is for Witching by Helen Oyeyami, and this is something creepy, something scary, something also dealing with mental illness. So next one is also one more book by the same author, Peter Handke. This is Slow Homecoming. You see, winner of the Nobel Prize in Literature. I'm not sure what this book is about, but like again, I bought it because I want to read books by Nobel Prize winners. And then this is The Luminaries. I love this book, but I still haven't finished it. I have, you see, I'm just right there, not even halfway through. But one day I will definitely finish it because I really liked it. I need to get back to it. And then I have a book by an Iranian author, I Hid My Voice. This is a story of a boy who did not speak until he was like 4 years old or 5 years old, and like his family already kind of gave up on him, but then his grandmother started taking care of him and he started talking. So this is like the premise, and it's basically like a story of how love can help people to open up and find their voice, quite literally. And then I have a memoir by Stephen King on writing and craft, and that's where he talks about like the writing and how to write novels. One more book I have by Peter Handke is, and this is The Moravian Night. Again, don't remember what this book is about, but should be really good. And then the last book is like completely random. It's not even like fiction, it's a non-fiction. It's about investment. That's what I want to learn actually. I want to learn something about investing and maybe try it for myself one day. Okay, so here you have my first shelf. It will be reorganized, it definitely will be changed, but so right now I don't know how. But so far this is what I have. And now off to the next shelf, right here. So here I have some of my signed copies actually. So the first book I have here is The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin, and this book I got from Waterstones, and this is a signed copy right here, which is very exciting. I started reading this book, but I couldn't get into it. I just wasn't in the mood for it, so I'm waiting for like the right mood to read it, and I will definitely be back. The next signed copy I have is Isabel Allende. Isabel Allende, A Long Petal of the Sea. Isabel Allende is a Chilean author, and I'm also very excited to get to her. So here we have the signed copy, also from all of my signed copies are from Waterstones. And so this has something to do with immigrants from Spain to Chile during some revolution. So we will see. But Isabel Allende is a beloved author, and everybody, like a lot of people, praise her. She is almost like a classic author as far as I understood for myself. So I was interested about her. And then here we have a book, also signed copy. This is actually a Norwegian author, Lars Smitting, and this is The Bell in the Lake. This has something to do with like a family mystery. And it's the first book in the series. I think there's supposed to be 3 books in the series, so this is the first one. And I like books about families, family mysteries, family saga. It's something I love, so that's why I decided to give this book a go. Next book is actually also about family, but this is An Actress by Anne Enright, also signed copy here. And this also a topic that's really interesting for me. This is a book about relationships between a mother and her daughter. And so mother is this like famous big actress, however she is like a really bad mom, and I feel like, as far as I know, like the relationship with her daughter are really bad. So that's why I wanted to read. I really like family relationship stories. And then these books, I will not take them out because like they're so big and they're so heavy. But this is my Wolf Hall trilogy by Hilary Mantel. These are not signed. They're not signed. These are just like regular copies, but they're so beautiful. Like, so look at the Wolf Hall. Look at the Bring Up the Bodies. That one is the last one. Very beautiful. Here I have Jewel Barnes, The Man in the Red Coat. Also a signed copy. This is a non-fiction, I think, about the beginning of the First World War and how it started and why it started. And further I have The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa. This book I read. You can watch my reading vlog for reading all the books shortlisted for International Man Booker Prize 2020. This is one of them. This book is shortlisted. Read it. Wasn't my favorite, but it's really good. It's still really good. Next one is a huge book that intimidates me a lot, but also interests me really a lot. This is The Eighth Life by Nino Haratischvili. And so this is a book by a Georgian author about a Georgian family living in Soviet Union. And this also is an interesting topic because I have never read any books about Soviet Union from Georgian perspective. So if you don't know, Georgia was part of Soviet Union back then. So yeah, I want to read about it. But this is huge. And this book was actually long listed for International Man Booker Prize 2020. Didn't get into short list, but was long listed. So then I have like some matryoshkas. Russian dolls. They're adorable as always. Then I have some elephant. I like elephants. And then here I have my very small collection of ancient Greek literature. So we have Theogony, Jason and the Golden Fleece, Daphnis and Chloe, and this book is like recommended by Jean Bookish Thoughts a lot. It's one of her favorite books. Then I have Metamorphosis by Ovid, the Satyricon by Petronius, and the last one is Euripides, Medea. So this is a collection of his 3 plays, I think. I still yet have to read all of them, but I'm getting there. One day I will get to them. And so here we have one more just random book about investment by Benjamin Graham. So here is my second bookshelf, and I actually really like it. I like the way it looks, so I think I will keep it. We will see, but I actually like this bookshelf. And then the next bookshelf is also mostly classics. Again, two Russian dolls. And here we have my English library collection, which has grown since the video, which you can watch here when I show you my English library book haul. This collection has slightly grown, maybe not even slightly, but okay, so here I have Melmoth the Wanderer. I'm sure like a lot of you already know this book, so I will not talk about them too much. Kim by Kipling, The Island of Dr. Moreau, Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, Far from the Madding Crowd by Thomas Hardy. This is like a very exciting book for me. I really want to give it a go, and I adore this edition with all the bees. And then in this pile, I actually really like how all of them look together. Like, look how beautiful. So in this pile we have also E.M. Forster, Aspects of the Novel, so again a book about writing. And then Jane Austen, Persuasion, Pride and Prejudice, also by Jane Austen, Sense and Sensibility, Northanger Abbey. I am incredibly excited about all Jane Austen's books. I want to read all of them together because like I've seen so many people adoring them. Mansfield Park by Jane Austen, Emma, and I think that's it. So she has 6 complete novels, right? So these are those, but I also know that she has some incomplete novels. Okay, so then we have Silas Marner by George Eliot, which I'm also very excited about this book because it's again on topics that I absolutely adore, which is like love and friendship and all, you know, all the good things. And then we have also by George Eliot Middlemarch, which is also a lot of people's favorite book. Little Dorrit by Charles Dickens, and also Hard Times by Charles Dickens. And then in this little stack I have E.M. Forster, Howard's End, again E.M. Forster, Where Angels Fear to Tread, Virginia Woolf, Mrs. Dalloway, and then Evelina by Frances Brunet, and the last one is The Scarlet Pimpernel by Baroness Orczy. I'm so sorry. And then here I have my small stack of vintage red spines, which I wasn't a big fan of initially, but now actually next to Penguin Library, I kind of like the way they look together. I don't know. I have The Magus by John Fowles. Then I have Cider with Rosie. This font is actually also quite good. Then I have Murdoch, Iris Murdoch, Under the Net. This font, oh actually no, I think these fonts are quite good. Okay, so then Carver, Will You Please Be Quiet Please. Then one more John Fowles, The Collector. This book actually scares me because I know what it's about. It's about how a crazy guy abducts a girl. It scares me, but also it really interests me. So I don't know when I will get to it, but I really want to though, but it scares me. And then The Tenth Man by Graham Greene. I really loved this book. I read it. It was really good. And one more, the last red spine that I have is also by Graham Greene, which is Brighton Rock. I read this and I really liked it. Yes, this book was really good. And then here we have one more small corner of books. I have my 2 Penguin close-bound editions, which is Bleak House by Charles Dickens and Brideshead Revisited by Evelyn Waugh. These editions are really beautiful, but I feel like they're not very sturdy. And also you see this comes off like easily, quite easily. I don't know if it's a good investment with these editions, so I probably will not be buying them anymore, but they're really beautiful. The editions I do love though are Every Man's Library, and I really like their spines. They look very classy. So far I have only one book in this edition, which is Gabriel Garcia Marquez, The General in His Labyrinth. I love this edition, and also look at him, he's such a lovely man. He has a face of a very lovely man. Next I have Knickerbocker Classics. I also have only one edition from this collection. I think I prefer Every Man's Library, so probably I will buy other books in this edition. But I do love the design of the cover here. I like the pattern. The font is a little bit small. It's not too small, but just a little bit small. So yeah, I feel like Every Man's Library is a better choice. And then next I have a book that I have already read, and this is Letters from Father Christmas by J.R.R. Tolkien. I really like this book. It's a collection of the letters that J.R.R. Tolkien wrote to his children, pretending to be the Santa Claus. And so he would write about different adventures of Santa Claus and his friend White Bear. And it also has some illustrations. It also has pictures of the letters themselves and illustrations that were made by the author himself. So it's a very beautiful book and also very heartwarming. And like you can see that like some of his children with time are growing up, and he addresses like younger children and says that like, well, since your brother is already so adult and he doesn't believe in me anymore, blah blah blah. It was lovely. Really liked it. So yeah, this book is lovely. And then here I just have like magazines, Hiragana Times. So it's like a magazine for people learning Japanese. I actually really like it. It has, you see, it has like texts in Japanese with also furigana, which is important because like I don't know kanji, and furigana is basically like it shows you how to read the kanji. Will also give you a lot of information. So it's a very useful resource for learning Japanese, and I like it. Okay, so this is my mostly classics shelf, and then I have one more shelf down here, and it's actually quite empty. So the first book here is famous, The Starless Sea. I need to get back to it. I am really put off by the chapters that they always interchange. So we have a chapter about the main character, then we have another chapter about somebody else, like totally random. And I know that somebody told me that like in the end it will all come together. So I just need to push through. But I like the main chapters about the main character Zachary, but I really do not care for like those random chapters, and so they really put me off. So I still haven't finished. Like I'm still like almost in the middle, and like I don't know when I will be picking it up. But I need to. And then the next book is Aria by an Iranian author, Nazanin Hazar, and this is about a girl and about revolution again. So a baby actually was found by a taxi driver in times of like revolution, and so he took her into his family, and it's like about her and her relationships with her stepmother, something like that as far as I know. But interesting. And actually something I want to also like reorganize on my shelves is that I want to put all my Iranian books together, because I do have like already quite a few Iranian books, and I also want them to be together. So I need to think how to reorganize it. We will see. Okay, so next book is a middle grade novel by Erin Entrada Kelly, and this is Lelani of the Distant Sea. I read this book. I really liked it. It's about a young girl living on this Filipino island, and in this island they have a legend that there is this, far away in the sea, there is this magic island where everything is good and everybody is happy, and every year they send the best men from their village to go and look for that island, but no one has ever returned. Her dad was one of those men, and he never returned, and now she lives with her mom and her stepdad, but her stepdad is very abusive towards her mom and towards herself. And so one day something happens, which I will not tell you what, and she needs to go to look for that magic island. So this was a lovely book. I liked it. And then the next book, which has been on my shelves for a very long time, and I really mean to read it, really mean to get to it, but I still haven't, is Blood in the Mist. And this is something like mystery, maybe a little bit of horror, about this town in America. And also it's like a family mystery, so someone gets killed and his or her relatives are like trying to discover the mystery. I don't really remember much about this book, but I really want to get to it. So next we have this small pile of books, and here we have Tarka the Otter. I really like this edition. It's hardcover, but it was very cheap, and also it's very light. So I like this edition. I think it's cute, and also I like otters, and I think it's a famous children classics, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm excited to get to it. Next book is a non-fiction, History of Japan, which I am slowly reading, very slowly, not every day. I just wanted to learn more about history of Japan, and this book is like just an introduction. It's an introductory level. It's just for amateurs, for people who are just interested to know at least something about history of Japan, because obviously, like you see, the book isn't very big, but it like includes the whole history. So it's very elementary, beginner level, but it's good for an introduction. So I like it. And then one more book that I also read is Still by Daniel Kellman, and I actually read it and I loved it. This book is also shortlisted for International Men's Booker Prize this year. I really liked it. It has a very interesting style of narration, which is like always jumping from one part of the story to another, and like you always have to be alert and you always have to pay attention, and you kind of have to guess like what part of the main character's life this particular chapter is talking about. And also like our main character Teal isn't like really at the center of the story, so basically every chapter follows a different character and Teal will be just like on the side. However, like the whole book follows actually Teal himself, so it was also like an interesting type, like I don't know, it was an interesting choice for me. I really enjoyed it also as well. So yeah, Teal, I really enjoyed this book. I think it's yeah, I don't think it will win, at least like not for me, but it was really good. Okay, so here I have two Russian textbooks because I teach Russian to one of my friends, and I got these textbooks to like, you know, use them for teaching Russian. And then here I have The Way of Kings, which I started, but I need to continue. I will definitely be back to this book. It's just that Create-a-thon started and I wanted to participate in Create-a-thon, so that's why I put it aside for a while, but I will definitely be back. Okay, so here you have another shelf. Now we're off to this small shelf, my oldest shelf. And on top here I have 5 books of Anne of Green Gables series, which I adore. I read the first 3 so far, so I have 2 more to go, and then I think there is, how many more books are there? 2 more? I'm not sure, but so far I have only, the last one is Anne's House of Dreams. I adore this series. I adore Anne, absolutely love it. Next book here is very beautiful. I love this cover. It's Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. I read this book, loved it. It's absolutely brilliant. I really liked it, so highly recommend it. Next one is also from Bloomsbury Modern Classics, so it's the same editions, and this is The Kite Runner. Haven't read this book yet, but really want to get to it. One more in the same editions is Fugitive Pieces. Also haven't read, but really want to. Next book is Charlotte's Web. This book I absolutely adore. I read it maybe last year for the first time. I didn't read it before when I was a kid, and also I think maybe I watched a movie, but like a long time ago, and I absolutely adored this book. I really liked it. Next book is Bloom. I haven't read it yet, but want to. And this is a middle grade novel. And then The House on Mango Street. I read this book, really liked it. Next one is The Little White Horse, also read it and loved it. This book I absolutely adore, Wish Tree by Catherine Applegate. This is a middle grade novel about, and actually the story is told by the tree. So the tree is the narrator and like is in the center of this whole story, like the main character. So it was really interesting. I really liked it. But this book actually deals with like immigration, immigrants, acceptance of different religions and different cultures, which I think is an important topic, and I really liked how this book dealt with this. And also I have Dubliners by James Joyce, and this is Penguin Deluxe editions, and I really like this cover. I thought it's very beautiful illustration. So here you have this shelf, and then down here, so these are my friends who are reading books together. Okay, my friends will move. Okay, so here we have Lies of Loch Lamora. Haven't read it but want to. Once Upon a River, love it. I started it, still haven't finished it. You see, like I'm there. I'm more than halfway through. Again, Career-a-thon started and I wasn't able to finish it, but I will definitely be back, and I love this book so much. And then The Water Horse, read it, loved it. It's basically like a reimagining of the Loch Ness Monster story. And then another book I started long ago and haven't finished is Bodolino by Umberto Eco. I will be back. I need to finish this book. It's just, as always, like some other books came around and I got distracted, but I want to finish this one. This book, Lolly Willows by Sylvia Townsend Warner. I read it, but it, for some reason, there is something about this book that I wasn't able to concentrate on it. Something about the way she writes. I need to reread it, but I remember that it was so hard for me to concentrate on this one. I don't know, is it because of the book? Maybe because I was in the wrong mood? I don't know. But I have another book also by the same author, which I also want to give a try. I think I will read this and see how I feel about this. But this is The Corner That Held Them. This is something about nunnery and nuns, so I'm excited to get to this. Next book is So Far from the Bamboo Grove by Yoko Kawashima Watkins, and I read this book. This is her own story. This is kind of based on her own life experiences when the Second World War finished and the Japanese that were living in Korea had to flee Korea because obviously they were not welcome there, and they had to flee back to Japan. And so it's about like her mom and her older sister and also her older brother running away basically from Korean soldiers and also international soldiers back to Japan. And it's also heartbreaking. It's very hard, but also just so interesting. And also I've never read any book about Second World War, but from a perspective of a Japanese person. So that was very interesting for me, and I really liked this book. It's very good. Next one is a book in German. I don't really know what it's about. I bought it when I was in Germany, when I was attending like German language course, and I bought it to just bring for me to Russia to read it, so I wouldn't forget like German, you know. So I still haven't read it. I started though. I need to get back to it. So this is Herbstmilch. Herbstmilch, Lebenserinnerungen einer Bäuerin. So it's something about life of a peasant, So yeah, interesting. I need to get to this. Okay, so friends moving back to their place, reading. Okay, and here I have also a stack of like smaller books. The first one is Julian Barnes' The Sense of an Ending. Oh, winner of the Man Booker Prize, didn't know. Okay, so don't remember what this book is about, but I want to get to this. Next book I haven't read but want to get to is Cat's Cradle, something about scientists. And then this book I read, this is Ernest Hemingway, Men Without Women. This is a collection of short stories. his short stories. Next book I also read and absolutely adored. This is Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. This is a story of this man living in a Nigerian tribe, and first it's just about him and his family, but later on white people come to their community and they start kind of teaching their way of life to these people, and it becomes a story of like colonization and like imposing a different culture on people. So a very good book. Next book I also read, and this is Anne of Byzantium. I like this book. It's about this Byzantine princess Anne, who was like supposed to become the empress but was replaced by her brother, and later on was sent to a nunnery. So it's about like this whole situation, like why she was removed from the position of the heir. It was very interesting. Then this book, it has been on so many of my TBRs, I never got to it. This is The Smoke Thief. Something about shape-shifting and like people shape-shifting into dragons, something like this. One day I will get to it. And then one more book is by Japanese author. You see, I need to put it with all my Japanese books. This is Sanshiro by Natsume Soseki, also Natsume Soseki. And there I have also Anne of Green Gables, but like in different edition. And so this is the second shelf. And then lower shelf. Okay, here I have my kanji notebook. I'm trying to learn kanji, which isn't going very successfully. Okay, I have a fake plant. And then, okay, so here we have, okay, it's very difficult to bring it out. It's Here We Are. Here We Are by Graham Swift. I read this book, wasn't a big fan of, just because of the narration style. I really liked the story, but the narration style was like so ragged. It was very hard for me to follow this book. It was like constantly jumping from one topic to another topic. That was really hard. Next book is Lie With Me by Philippe Bisson. This is a book about a one-gender relationship between guys, and I really liked it. Next one is Darker Shade of Magic by Victoria E. Schwab. I haven't read it yet. Next one is Ceremony. This is by a Native American author, also about a man coming from war and being like rejected by his community and then kind of finding his way back to his culture, something like that. Then Things in Jars by Jess Kidd. This is like a Victorian, wait, let me get it out. This is a Victorian novel about like people disappearing and people collecting curiosities, something like that. And then another one gender relationship book about between guys is like People in History by Felice Picano, something like this. So haven't read it yet. Now next book I read and I really liked it. This is Private Peaceful by Michael Morpurge. This book was really good. It's about two brothers and World War I. It was really good. Next one, Timekeeper. I really need to get to this book. It has been on my shelves for so long. Haven't read it yet, but want to. And now here we have this stack of books. I think I will not get them out because it will take too much time. So here I have, okay, some of them. Geisha of Gion, and this is memoirs of Mineko Iwasaki, which is like, she was the best and the most famous geisha of her time. So this is her memoirs, and she was actually the woman whom Arthur Golden interviewed for his book. So that's the story. And then next book here is Forbidden Colors by Yukio Mishima. I'm also very excited to get to this book. Must be something absolutely brilliant. It's about this artist who hates women and decides to pay his revenge on them by using another man who is like very handsome and very attractive, but he is a gay. And our artist is like introducing him to different women, something like this. So he's planning to pay his, for some reason he really doesn't like women. Okay, next we have book that I read, I really liked, is The Lady in the Little Fox Fur. Adored this book. It's about a homeless woman living in Paris alone, and it's just about her like trying to survive in her everyday life. I love this book so much. Next one is Italo Calvino, Into the War, collection of his 3 short stories about beginning of the Second World War, so when Italy joined into the war, and I also really like these stories. Next we have 2 books by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, 100 Years of Solitude and Love in Times of Cholera. I love these editions. I really love these covers. I think they're so beautiful. So yes, I have these 2. Still have to read them. Next book I also read. This is A Month in the Country by J.L. Carr. Wasn't a big fan of this book, but it was still good, but I wasn't a big fan. I feel like it wasn't what I expected it to be. I expected it to be this like heartwarming story about recovery after war experiences like in the country. However, it didn't feel like really very heartwarming to me. It just, I don't know. It's like this artist who restores old paintings, comes to this village, to this church, because there is a fresco on the wall, and he is to restore this picture. And so it's like about him restoring this picture, and also like being introduced to people of this place. I don't know, it wasn't my favorite. Next I have John Steinbeck, The Pearl. I read this book, really liked it, but it was like very sad. I feel like John Steinbeck writes very sad books, so this one was also very sad. And then I have Yukio Tsushima, Territory of Light, and also another Yukio Tsushima, Child of Fortune. So this author, a Japanese author, she writes about single mothers in Japan in the end of the 20th century. So they were like a different they were like a special group of people, and being a single mom in Japan at that time was like very difficult. People really didn't really like accepted them very much. So it's about like her experiences being a single mom. And then Yasutari about a Stow Country. I read this book. I need to reread it because like I didn't completely like understood, I guess, what was this about, and like some like relationship in this book were like very bizarre for me. It's about the geisha and the man kind of always visiting her, and it's like about kind of their relationship and their romance, but at the same time not really romance. So I was like, what's going on? Didn't really understand this book. Next book is Delta of Venus. This book is so interesting. I haven't finished it yet. I read, it's a collection of short stories like erotica short stories. But the interesting thing about this book, like don't expect it to be smart. It's not really smart. So the short stories that I have read, they are more about like perverted sexual desires. So both of the stories I read were like about perverts. So it's not like, you know, it's not a pleasurable thing to read. It's like more gross actually to read. And it's like about like how this, I guess, the extensive amount of like sexual desire in people can lead them into like becoming perverted and just being gross. So yeah, this book is very interesting, but you see I've only read like 2 short stories from this so far because it's like it's really gross to read. So I will slowly get through this. Next book is The Guest Cat by Takashi Hiraide. It's about a kitten coming to this family of husband and wife whose relationships are slowly cooling off, and this cat is just like helping them to find their way back to each other. So it should be something lovely, but I haven't read it yet. Next one is Frost in May by Antonia White. I read this book, really liked it. This is about growing up in a convent school, Catholic convent school, and it's like about all the restrictions that are imposed on girls in that school. It was really interesting to read, highly recommended. And The Eye of the World, haven't read it yet. And then also here I have 2 more books. This is very difficult to get out, so I will just show you like this. Janet Winter's Son, Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit. And this is about a girl discovering her sexuality when she was a child, and also coming from a very religious family. So it's like about her standing up for herself to her religious community. It was so good. I just really love the main character here, because she never allowed anybody to tell her what she should and shouldn't be. She just knew who she was. Really liked it. And then one more book also for like children. Oh, I will show you now. Janet Winterson. It's a beautiful cover. And okay, so this book is The Family Under the Bridge. Adorable. I love this book so much. It's a very short story for children, and it's about this homeless man finding this also homeless family of like a woman with her 3 children, and just like helping them around also in Paris. This is also set in Paris. Adorable. I love this book so much. So here is the overview of this shelf, and then going lower. Okay, so this is again like a dry flower. On this shelf, okay, first of all, I have The Blind Owl. I read this book, really liked it. This is a book about like insanity and obsession, and it was brilliant. I really liked it. Next one is also a book by an Iranian author, and this is The Enlightenment of the Green Gage Tree by Shukufeh Azar. This book is also shortlisted for International Men's Booker Prize 2020. I read it in the video, which you can watch up here. This was my favorite. I recommend it. Next one is a very beautiful book, Snow and Rose. This is a middle grade novel retelling of Brothers Grimm fairy tale, and also illustrated by the author herself. So illustrations, let me find some. So illustrations here are very beautiful. I really like this book. I do prefer the original fairy tale though, but this book is just a piece of art. I like it so much. The story itself is also good, just I prefer the original. And then The Thief Lord. I also read this book, adored this book, so good, about 2 brothers who lost their mom, and their aunt, who is now their legal guardian, wants to separate them. So she wants to keep the younger brother to herself, and she wants to send the older brother to a boarding school. So she wants to separate them, and they run away from home, and they run away to Venice. And it's about them like trying to survive in Venice and also finding their friends, and also there is some magic in here. So it's a very good book. I really liked it. Next book is I still have yet to read. This is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin, the first book in the trilogy. And somebody told me that actually this might not be my cup of tea, because apparently it's like also very bad, like everything is terrible and people are like just killing each other. I don't know, we will see. But it might be not a book for me. Let's see. But every book in the series has won Hugo Award, so it must be really good. Just okay, we will see. I haven't read it yet. And then in this stack I have Mary Anning's Curiosity. Love this book a lot, and also really like the cover. Mary Anning's is the first woman fossilist, and it's like reimagining of her childhood. I read this book, really liked it, so good. Then next we have Eva Ibbotson, The Secret of Platform 13, and this book actually like inspired Harry Potter, so that's why I wanted like to read it. I wanted to give it a try, about this prince who was lost, and there is this like magic platform 13, which is like the portal between our world and that other magic world. So really cool. Next book is also middle grade. I read this book. This is Shadows of Winterspell, and this is also actually about it has so many magic creatures that live in this forest, and there is this prince who has been lost, and this forest is like being overtaken by like black shadows, and the creatures in this forest, they have this legend that there is a prince who will return one day and will save the forest from these black shadows. So it was very interesting. I liked it. And then next I have Temeraire by Naomi Novik, Around the Village, a book about childhood during Second World War. I'm sure everybody knows Robin Hobb, Assassin's Apprentice, Rachel Birch, The Twisted Tree, haven't read it yet, The Long Winter, Charles Bukowski, Notes of a Dirty Old Man, I need to get to this, and then The White Stack, The Fall Keeper, I read this book, loved it, Tuck Everlasting, read this book, loved it, and then Tooth and Claw by Joe Walton, read and loved it. And then here we have Cat Incorrigible, also middle grade novel about this lovely girl whose mom is dead, but she inherits her mom's magic, and so it's about her. And then here I also have The Adventures of China Iron. This book is also shortlisted for International Man Booker Prize 2020. Read it, liked it, quite liked it. Wasn't my absolute favorite, but it's still a very good book. And also here I have two Ursula K. Le Guin's, her two collections of short stories. So here is the overview of this shelf. And again, lower we have one more shelf. So the last shelf. Okay, so here also I have my fake plant. I have Hogwarts Express standing on my Harry Potter books. I don't have the full collection of Harry Potter books. I only have 4 so far, and I've only read the first 3. So I don't have like the complete collection. And then next we have The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson, the first book in the trilogy, which I haven't read yet, but I will get to it after The Way of Kings. And then another book which I really need to read is Titus Grown. Very excited about it. It has to be something very special and like really, really good. And then the book that I read is The Hobbit. Read it this year, absolutely loved it. And then we come to one of my favorite, absolute favorite books is The Miracles of Nemia General Store. I adore this book. I've already talked about it so much, so I don't want to talk about it too much because I feel like some people will be really tired already of listening about this, but it's one of my absolute favorite books. I read it this year, absolutely adore it, and I would so highly recommend this. It's just such a heartwarming, lovely story, such a kind story with just so much humanity in this. I adore it. I absolutely adore it. And the last book is Black Leopard Red Wolf by Marlon James, also a signed copy. I am a little bit intimidated by this book. So he received Man Booker Prize for one of his other books, and I wanted to try this because this is like a fantasy book and the first book in the trilogy, but a lot of people said like it's crazy violent, so, and it's not my cup of tea, but we will see, so here, Man Booker Prize winning Brief History of 7 Killings, so that's him. We will see. I need to get to this, but I am intimidated by the reviews of this book. And so here you have the overview of my last shelf. So here are all of the bookshelves that we went through together today. Okay, so that is empty, and my small bookshelf. Okay everyone, and so this was the end of my bookshelf tour. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was interesting. Maybe you found some new interesting books for yourself. Let me know in the comments which books sounded interesting to you. I hope you had fun. I definitely did. I really enjoyed filming this video. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you're having a very good day, staying safe, and I will see you soon in my next video. Thank you so much. Bye.